I absolutely love hentai. Hentai is magical. There are so many lessons that can be had from spending hours and hours on hentai, and that's exactly what I've done this past week. And I hope by the end of this clip, you're going to love hentai as much as I do, and you're going to see the real magic that's there. And actually, if you're learning Japanese, Chinese, even Vietnamese or Korean, it may well become your secret weapon in getting a depth of knowledge and understanding the language that you couldn't get anywhere else. So just to clarify what I mean by hentai, first of all, let's just write this. So the first word, hen, it literally means to change. And this is like the Chinese jianti version of to change. And so we have this word. In Chinese, we call this bian. And that means to change, okay? Like 改变 in Mandarin is hen in Japanese, meaning to change or different. And now this is where the difference is. So if we're looking at those sexually explicit cartoons, I'll try and write this a little neatly. That's the word neng, but then when you put this heart particle, in Mandarin, it's tai, like in taidu, an attitude, a feeling. And this is tai in Japanese, meaning also a feeling as well. So when you have hentai one form, I'll just put this word here, this bian, that is strange sexual attitudes or perversions. And this is where the cartoon form came from, the hentai cartoons. That's not what we're talking about today. What I want to talk about today, now I'm going to write the full form of this character first. And so we can see that we have bones on the left. It's got something to do with the body. And this here, ti. So in Mandarin, this is ti. Now, if you've learnt the jianti forms or Japanese, you see in Japan, they actually have this modified form of ti. By the way, there are a couple of ways you can do that there. You can do that portion of it like that, or this would be also another form. But that is the simplified form in Mandarin of ti, or also we pronounce this as tai in Japanese as well. If we have this word now in Chinese, it would be bian ti, or in Japanese is hentai, pronounced exactly the same. This word here means changed body or changed shape. So in its full form, these would be the characters. And there's a reason why I'm putting it in its full form here. You may have noticed in my last clip, I've started a series looking at Chinese secrets within Japanese kana. And I did the first clip, I, U, E, O, and we looked at the hiragana and we looked at what characters they originally came from. And it got me thinking, because I remember many years ago, I used to really love getting into what we call Manyogana. So Manyogana is this old style of writing Japanese in Chinese characters. And so I'll give you an example here. If you see this sentence here, now I read Chinese and I kind of know what the Chinese, so some of the pronunciations have come from the Tang Dynasty period, the Song Dynasty period. And so this has come from, I think, around the Changsha, the Xiamen kind of region of China, from way back. Closer to Middle Chinese, and so that would be the kan-on, and then you also have the go-on. So the go is from this wu character, which are the Wu languages and also the Yue languages. So they'll sound much closer to modern Cantonese or even Vietnamese, and they've come by way of Korea, and often Buddhist text would use these pronunciations of the same Chinese characters. So in Japanese, we have several pronunciations for Chinese characters that would be used in this Manyogana. Also, you would also have Japanese pronunciations like real kunyomi, so the Japanese word that represented that same meaning. And Manyogana was basically this mixture of all of these, just using the phonetic value of characters in order to write Japanese. So this is an example. If I saw that, I know this would be 知乎路可lang in Mandarin, but I would think back in my Middle Chinese brain, that's probably something like 知, so in Japanese it's probably something like 西hu. This is probably, now, 路 could be ro, but I know that the Japanese word for road is also miji or ji. So this could be something like ru ro, but it also could be something like michi or michi or ji, depending on where this word has come in, whether it's voiced or not in Japanese. And this character here, ke, would probably be ke, ka, ha, something like this. And lang, you drop the r, so ra, ra, something like this. So it's probably going to be shi, ho, ro, or shi, ho, ji, ha, ra. And let's have a look down here, shi, o, ji, kara. And this is how Japanese was read in the past. Now, you can imagine how crazy it was. Anyone who can read Chinese or kanji characters in Japanese, you would read that. It has actually no meaning whatsoever if you just look at the meanings of these characters. But when you come down here, you see, okay, I know what it means. And in modern Japanese, you see that you use a mixture of the kanji and then also the hiragana to make these Japanese particles. Now, you can see here they've used the word ji. So it's actually using the word lu in Chinese, which means road. Now, I also know in Manyogana as well, this word dao can also be michi or ji as well. So this was also another interchangeable character for this sound ji, coming from michi or ji. In fact, it gets crazy. So supposing you wanted to write the syllable pa, P-A, pa, you could choose from any of these characters to write the word. And as they were writing, because they had to write really fast and it was just in phonetics, they got really, really messy as well. So there are some crazy forms of these characters. Now, what happened after Manyogana, they thought this is getting crazy. We need to simplify things and have a lot less forms of the same syllables. Because you could see, if you wanted to write anything, there were so many different ways you could write. Introducing Hentaigana. So what hentai, you can see here is 变体 jiaming or Hentaigana. This is the altered forms of kana. And you can see something now that is possible that wasn't possible just a few years ago. Have a look at this. Unicode has actually encoded these new characters. Well, they're old characters. They're the Hentaigana characters. And now you can actually type in and use in web pages and whatever documents you're using, just as long as you've got these Unicode fonts, the Hentaigana forms. And so what I thought is that if I'm going to be doing a clip or a series of clips that is showing you this Chinese magic through the Xingshu and the Caoshu, the semi-cursive and the cursive forms of Chinese characters, which ended up as hiragana, well, let's look at the Hentaigana too. And so from now on in, I'm going to be using actually all the Hentaigana forms as we're going through a, I, U, E, O, kaki, kuke, ko, all the way down wa, o, and we're going to see all of these different forms. So what I did in Google Sheets, now you can just say import HTML, and I grabbed this table, I think it was table number 5 on that Wikipedia page, and I imported them all here. Now, that's nice, but it's not really useful because they're in all these different boxes. So what I did then is I just fixed some formulas up. If you want to learn how to do this, by the way, come to Minecraft, enroll in Minecraft, because we learn the tech to do this. But basically, from that table, I was able to generate this long list. And I have the romaji, what set it is. So for example, the a, I, U, E, O is set 1, kaki, kuke, ko, set 2, and so on. The index, so for every a, how many different kana forms do we have? The original kanji and the modern kana form to represent that. All those are going to be useful, especially if I'm wanting to learn. And then what's really cool here is I can pull those in. And so for example, this one kanji has so many different forms. Now I know this letter here, you would probably know this one here as But in the past, this U character here was used for mu, mo, and n. Now, in the Japanese language reform in 1900, they said, okay, from now on, we're only going to use this for n. And this was decided on, but all of these would represent n. And so there are 7 different Hentaigana forms for this one kanji. If we have a look here, we have this word. Now, this is shijie, means world, sekai. And so you can see all of these different forms of se from or shi, meaning earth or world. Now it's represented by this, but we can actually see the stepping stones that led to the modern hiragana, or at least one of the hiragana that were chosen, or one of the kana forms that were chosen for the standard. And so what I'll be doing is going through these as we go through each set, and we can actually see the transition. If you have a look at my thumbnail for this clip, I chose this one. So this is me, or mi meaning beautiful, and you would know this as the current form for the hiragana. But look at these transitions. You've got the mei, and then this one where you have there. You'll see some forms where it's actually got a stroke across here like this. And so honestly, any of these could have been chosen. Eventually, this form was chosen and became the standard hiragana. And so again, using our Minecraft skills, we were able to get tech pulling from that. Now, all of this is just pulling from that Wikipedia table. And have a look at this. So a, I, u, e, o. We know that a in original comes from this an character here. But now as it boots up in here, look at this. We have an, and these are all the forms. Now, if you go back to the clip that I did the other day, you'll see that I actually wrote an in this transitional form. This was actually one of the Hentaigana forms that they decided on. This was a very legitimate form of writing the sound a, coming from an. Some other words that you could have had so ai meaning love. So that was also a form that you could write a. Let's have a look at I. If I type in I here, bang. Now you remember that I mentioned that I originally coming from that, and we had a kick coming down here, which then got into a faster form, bang, bang, bang. So coming back here, you can actually see that in this character here, and it's got the kick in. Have a look at a, I, u. Now, I mentioned that some people might think that this portion of the modern hiragana comes from the roof, but then you can actually see down here in these forms, it's actually come from this lower portion here. That lower portion actually looks the same as this. And then you've also got this one. Actually, this is a fascinating one. You can see yo, if you speak Chinese, that means to have. The modern form of this is that yo. Now, we've mentioned in other clips that actually this turned into this, which turned into that. So that is actually a viable component to write this yeah, or the flesh component to characters. But then have a look at this. This is something really crazy that happens. A lot of people might write this. They go across, and instead of coming back up for this stroke here, what happens is they'll come across, down, and then that stroke comes down there, and then that comes down there, and this written like that. Or it could even be written like this, bang, bang, bang. Or it could be written like this, coming down, bang, and that. And so that or that could all be this yo character here, meaning to have. And here you can see that this became a standard Hentaigana form. And so I think this is going to be really cool that we can use these tools. We're able to draw on these principles of Hentaigana, modern hiragana, and the transitional forms to get a real depth of knowledge into Chinese characters and also get that muscle memory, which I think is crucial. There are so many lessons here. Here we looked at e, and this came from this e component, meaning clothes. And this is almost identical to what I wrote in the clip. Go back and have a look at the clip. Here's an even more exaggerated form of that. So that could have well been e. They finally decided on this form of e. Let's have a look at o, because we missed that in the main clip the other day. Now, you remember I mentioned that you had one where you draw this crossbar first and then all the way down, or you had some that did the dot, then the cross, and then did this down here. Here you can see two different forms. So you've got this, the crossbar, this comes all the way through from this, what would be the feng or the ho particle on the side. It gets abbreviated to that. That's a standard abbreviation when you're doing Xingshu, the semi-cursive, or the Taoshu cursive forms. And so all of these could have been, or they finally decided on this form of it. This is really fascinating. And so I've made these three different tables. This is search by Romaji. So you can see here, you can choose any of the Romaji. So let's have a look. We can look at Ma here, bang, and you get all of these Ma potential candidates, which actually had the Hentaigana for them. If you wanted to look just by the kanji, I've got you covered. We can actually look here, and we've got them all listed down here. And so we can see how many different characters came from a kanji. And there they are. So let's have a look if we want to look at this one, ka. And this is the transitional form that we'll be looking at in the next clip when we do kaki kukeko. And I did one final one where you can actually search by the ka. So for example, if you see a kana and you think, I wonder what that's come from. well, then it will show you, and all of the other derivatives, as well as all of the other kana that make up for that sound in the Hentaigana system. So through these 3 tools, I will be incorporating that into my new series, Seeing Chinese Secrets Through Japanese Kana. And we'll look at not only hiragana, but also the Hentaigana. And you'll become Jedi Masters in understanding kanji, Chinese characters, and getting this really old knowledge that's being lost in the young generation. I think both for Japanese and Chinese speakers alike, this new generation, of course, they're getting so used to texting, they've got character recognition and it's not in the muscles anymore. And it's so sad to see this really old knowledge, which was common knowledge for thousands of the years, being lost. And for me, it's inextricable from the language, this muscle memory of the characters. My grandfather taught me when I was young, and then I kept learning from older generation Chinese to get it into my muscles. And I see it as such a rich part of writing Chinese, of writing Japanese. And you can see the footprint of it in every hiragana that you see in modern Japanese. So I hope you're going to enjoy this series, whether you're a Chinese speaker, Japanese speaker, Korean, Vietnamese, or just into languages. If you want to learn how to build these kinds of really cool tools in things like Google Sheets, or using other very easy technologies that give you a lot of power, well then come and join Minecraft. We have more people who have joined up Minecraft this past week. It's fantastic. Welcome to you all. We actually covered Hentaigana and did a deep dive into this and the tech, how I actually built this in Saturday's Minecraft lesson. Come and join in the discussion in the Discord group. You can scan the QR code. I hope you're going to enjoy this. I love Hentaigana. As far as the other hentai is concerned, I will remain silent. I'm Stuart J. Raj. I'll see you on the other side.